Welcome to Daily Dose Radio, a 5-minute devotional podcast studying the Psalms verse by verse. Broadcast from the ever-beautiful Sharonville, Ohio, on the sunny side of Cincinnati. Hey, welcome back to Daily Dose Radio. Come on in, pull up a chair, stool, whatever you find, sit down. Let's open up our Bibles, and we're going to read together verses 10 through 12 in Psalm 5 today. We've been studying Psalm 5 all this week. Psalm 5 is a great prayer of David's and starts off with that wonderful declaration of prayer. My speech, the ear of the Lord. Isn't that wonderful? That's exactly what prayer is. Consider my groaning, David says there in verse 1. Pay attention to the sound of my cry. Those words, groaning and cry, by the way, are unique words. Just very few of those are used in the Old Testament. So interesting wording here that he uses. And then he goes on to declare his request to this God who's holy, who does not take pleasure in wickedness, and yet shows mercy. And David asks in verse 8, lead me in your righteousness. See, his request, we think it's going to be something great or powerful or, give me gold, money, power, position, wealth, whatever. But it's not. Lead me in righteousness. That's his request. His request is that God would lead him, that God would make straight before him the way, because he's got an enemy. And the enemy is on his heels. And the enemy is described for us in verse 9. There's nothing reliable in his mouth. Profane are the inward parts. Open grave is the throat, and tongue that flatters. That's who they are. And now we're going to continue with that idea in 10, still describing the wicked. Now let me read 10 through 12. God will declare them guilty so that they fall from their plans. In the multitude of their transgressions, thrust them out, for they will rebel against you, for they have rebelled against you. So then all those who seek refuge will rejoice in you. Forever will they lift up their praise, and you will defend them, and they will rejoice in you, those who love your name. For you, O Lord, will bless the righteous. Like a shield, favor will surround him. That's verses 10 through 12. We're looking at verse 10 now as kind of a continuation of 9. There's nothing reliable in his mouth. Their inward parts are profane. Their throat is an open grave. Their tongue flatters. God will declare them guilty. This is who they are. And why does God declare them guilty? Well, because of all that we've read about them up to this point, and what he says here in 10, they have rebelled against you. But there's something interesting here in 10. There's a word that's used twice in this psalm that we need to pay close attention to. And it's translated here for us, or by me here in verse 10, as multitude, in the multitude of their transgressions. Now that same word we have over in verse 7. And in verse 7 I translated it in the abundance of your mercy. The abundance and the multitude. I probably should have translated them the same. And I probably, if I had been more on the ball when I was translating this, I would have probably chosen the word abundance for both of those. I like that word. It's, the idea that it's piled up in great heaps. It's abundant. Well, this mercy that David has received, but I, in the abundance of your mercy, I will enter your house. Here comes over in 10, in the abundance of their transgressions, thrust them out. So David receives the abundance of mercy. They have nothing more than the abundance of transgression. He enters in, they're thrust out. You see the contrast? Okay. And it's all predicated on this word abundance. For they have rebelled against you. So then all those who seek refuge. Wait a minute, I thought we were just talking about David. Oh no, there's a bunch of folks that have received mercy, and David now goes from mercy to refuge. These are the folks that have received mercy, those who have found refuge. They rejoice, they lift up their praise, they rejoice in you. These are the ones that love your name. We know who they are, don't we? So again, we're building that comparison and contrast between those that are guilty and those that are free. And then finally, verse 12, for you, O Lord, will bless the righteous like a shield. Favor will surround him. Didn't we have the shield earlier in the Psalter? Oh, yeah, sure we did. We had it over there. I think wasn't it last week in Psalm 4? Where was our shield? Yeah, we had it we've had the shield prior to this, I think maybe in Psalm 3 then. And so here we have the shield again. It's all the way around. Yeah, it was in Psalm 3. It's all the way around the believer. He's going to surround us. And that shield this time is favor. Join me again next week. We'll look at Psalm 6 on Daily Dose Radio. Thanks for listening to Daily Dose Radio. I'm David Smith. The music today has been performed by the Bluegrass Experiment. Thanks again for listening. I'll see you next time on Daily Dose Radio.